Hi, this is Ben. Welcome to the second video in my series about the truth about web design. In the first video, we looked at the shift, the technological shift that's happened in the last 20 years, really since web design as a profession came about, and started to look at what the implications are of that, because now it's a lot easier to generate and publish good-looking and functional websites. But we looked at things like the strategy and the importance of creating and designing a marketing campaign, which those things can't do. So we're going to go straight in to the presentation for today's video, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is the second video in the Truth About Web Design, the essentials of web strategy. If you haven't watched the first video yet, I really strongly encourage you to watch it now. It will give you a great foundation for understanding and being able to apply this second presentation. The link should be below this video. So let's start with a quick recap. Hopefully you did watch the first video. So what we're saying is there's been a huge shift in the web design profession that's been caused by technological innovation. And that shift is dramatic, and if anything, it's speeding up. It's not going to stop. What that means is it's now far easier, far faster, and incredibly so much cheaper to publish online than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, never mind 10 or 20 years ago. And it can give you a higher quality of publishing result. Now, the proviso is you have to use the best products. Yes, anyone can, in theory, go out, get a bit of hosting, install WordPress, and buy a cheap WordPress theme. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your site is going to be functional and accessible, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's going to do a good job of marketing. However, literally just this weekend, I completely changed web design from scratch. I happened to find a set of themes that were so good that I just thought to myself, literally on Saturday morning, I didn't even get out of bed. I grabbed my laptop and I looked at it and thought, do you know, I'm going to preview that theme on web design from scratch. I uploaded it, I previewed it. God, it worked. It was already better than what I had before, with no work at all. So I installed it. By lunchtime, the theme was up and running, worked great on mobile, and everything's absolutely amazing. But that's because I was using a high quality product. So the shift means it's easier, faster, and cheaper, and the publishing result is much higher quality, even than what we could do manually years ago. So I think we're even at the point that clients can now publish themselves with just a little work, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in theory or in principle. But there's a risk, and the risk is that this amazing publishing technology can give us a false sense of confidence. It's often said, it's one of my favorite quotes about web design, that the best thing about the web is that everyone can be a publisher, and the worst thing about the web is everyone can be a publisher. It works both ways. You only have to think back to the early 90s when everyone started getting Microsoft Word on their PCs, and suddenly stuff started going crazy with word art and rainbow colors and colors that didn't match. And there's always it's a double-edged sword when you put technology in the hands of ordinary people, but the technology is getting better and better and better over time. So as we saw in the last video, great marketing actually has 4 main phases, and the publishing part is only one of those. The first one is you have to get your strategy right. Your strategy means this is what we're going to do. Right? This is what we're going to sell, this is who we're going to sell it to, this is why they're going to buy it. Okay? Secondly, you've got to design a campaign. That's the tactical implementation of your strategy. Thirdly, And only when you've done your strategy and designed your campaign, third step is to design and publish your website. And today we can do that incredibly rapidly, and we should be doing it incredibly rapidly. We should absolutely not be handcrafting every little component. Yeah, sure you can do it, but it's extraordinarily expensive in time and money and client's budget and whatever. And the fourth step that we talked about is monitoring what's going on, tracking your successes and iterating. So test, try different things, see what works better. Of course, the publishing thing and all that power of publishing is only one of those steps. So it's really important that we shouldn't let it blind us to the fact that there's a lot more to marketing and web design than just making a website. Having the keys to a Formula One car does not mean that you'll get round the track any quicker. If you put me in a Formula One car, I'm likely to kill myself, right? Without the right skill, having all that power at your command actually makes it more likely that you'll crash and burn. I might be quicker getting around a racetrack in a moderately powered car, simply because I can control it. I know what to do. Now, in the same way, giving people all this incredible design and publishing speed and power doesn't mean that you'll end up with more effective marketing. Publishing smart sites is only one of those 4 core phases that we've looked at in marketing. And without a complete strategy and campaign plan, you could crash and burn. Obviously, we've always had this problem of both designers and clients getting distracted by attractive style and gimmicks. You know, the design and publishing section, which is only part of it, it can impress, it can blind you to those other things. And you know, that's just a fact of life. There's very little we can do about that other than keep sharing the facts and keep trying to educate. And that's what I do, that's my job. So we're going to explore in a lot more detail what the shift means for the web design profession in the next video. So looking at marketing strategy then, marketing is fundamentally no different today than it was 20 years ago. In fact, it's really no different to how it was 2,000 years ago. Now in this video, I'm going to give you the most powerful strategic marketing tool I have ever used. The reason it's so powerful is because it represents the essential elements of marketing, and it does it in a way that makes it easy to see what's workable, what's working, and what isn't. It really is quite magical. And because of those reasons, this would actually have worked 2,000 years ago. There's no difference. This is not to do with the publishing. This is not to do with the tactics and the channels. This is to do with the essentials of marketing and selling and promoting what you do, so you can find the best people and you can let them know that what you do and what you can do for them is really worth having. So this is absolutely timeless stuff. So I actually gave you the essential elements very briefly in the last video. Today we're going to go much deeper. I'm going to show you how they work together and how you can use them to develop a new marketing strategy or to pinpoint weaknesses in an existing strategy and then to make those vital improvements. You're going to see how it all works, and I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to demonstrate it to you using a recent real-world case study. So let's just remind ourselves, these are the 5 essential elements of your marketing strategy. Number 1 is you, or the brand. Then you've got products and services. Then propositions. The propositions solve a problem. And then finally, who has that problem? Who is your target market? And this is what they create. And this is the tool, right? It's literally those 5 things. You, the brand, products and services, the propositions, the problem, and the market. And the way in which all of these things connect to each other is incredibly important. So here's what's really essential about the circuit. This is what you need to understand. All of those 5 elements must be present, they must be strong, and they must be aligned. If any of those elements is missing, or it's weak, or it's out of line with the rest, your strategy is going to be compromised. And that means that your marketing will have to work much harder than it should. And what I tend to find is you'll then be more likely to be tempted to resort to manipulation in order to compete. And I don't like that. I don't think that anyone out there should be having to use tricks or to bend the truth in any way in order to sell. So when you've got a complete circuit, you've got the sound basis for a marketing campaign. And here's how I like to think about it. Energy can flow, right? That's why I call it a circuit. It's like an electrical circuit. When all of the pieces are together, they're connected and they're in line. The circuit is complete and the energy can flow around. All the way from you and what you represent to your market and what they represent and what they stand for. So that's how you end up with a tribe or a loyal following. Now the good news about the circuit is if you find things that are broken or missing or out of line, practically all the elements can actually be reinvented or changed in order to give you an integrated circuit. So let me walk you through the 5 essential elements. I'm going to show you how they all connect and why they're all essential. So let's start with number 1. This is you, or the brand. And what that really represents is, in marketing, is who is making the offer. And why is that important? Well, it's important because we don't just buy stuff a lot of the time, unless it's an absolute commodity, right? Bag of logs, firelighters, whatever it may be, milk. Do you really care where you get that from? Now, but more than just buying stuff, we actually buy from brands. And we relate to those brands. And we relate to them as though they are personalities, as though they are people in many ways. You build up a relationship which shares many of the same kind of emotions and expectations that you have with interpersonal relationships. And the reason brands are so important is because they actually give us cognitive shortcuts that save us having to do too much work or too much thinking in order to decide what to buy. Right? The number of marketing messages that each of us receives has doubled since certainly in the last few decades, since about the 1960s or 70s. Right? We're getting thousands of messages in through our eyes, in through our ears, every single day. So more than ever, it's absolutely critical to be able to filter out what matters, what's interesting, right? What's going to be useful to us, what's relevant to us, from all the stuff that isn't. And brands actually help you do that. So when you're selling, it's important that you don't just think about the thing that you ship or the packaging on it. You want to think about, what does this represent? And when you come to my store or my website, this is what I am to you. It's about being. It's not just about what you do. It's about what you are. And we are constantly looking for brands that we can trust. We want news providers that we can trust. There's so much more news. It's coming bottom up now. There are so many vendors. What vendors do we trust? You need to be conscious about your branding. It's possible actually to be successful in branding completely unconsciously, right? If you're great and you're unique and you're honest and you're good, true to your word, right? And everything that you do exudes those qualities, then people they'll naturally respond to you, and they'll love you, and they'll trust you, and they'll be happy to follow you, and they'll be happy to listen to what you've got to say. That's relatively rare these days. So when you're publishing online, what you tend to find is that people have this kind of conscious idea about branding, and you kind of fall between two stools in a way. So what you tend to find is that people will think, oh, I need to be a certain thing, right? I need to be perceived in a certain way. So you kind of try and put a mask of that thing on. You try and fake it. And that usually doesn't work very well. Because when branding works, it works when you are that thing. You're not faking it. Right? You're not trying to add it. You know, how many times do you see some kind of technology company and they sell 30 different categories of stuff, and they put some stupid strapline on their branding, or some, you know, inane kind of headline on an ad, and it just goes straight into one ear, hits your bullshit filter, and bounces straight out again. You don't care about that stuff. But there are brands that know what they stand for because that's what they are, right? And those are the things, those are the brands that people love to follow, love to call themselves part of. Think about things like, obviously, Apple, Harley Davidson. You know, there's brands that you know, people will actually tattoo on their bodies, right? That's what we're going for. You know, so really the ultimate expression of branding is when you aren't just deciding what you want to be, but you are it. And then it comes through in everything that you do. As I was saying, trust and belief then matter more than ever, right? You don't want to fake your brand. You don't want to compromise it with a half-brained idea. So, what I'm going to give you now then is, for each of these elements, I'm going to give you a few key questions that you can ask when you are thinking about strategy. This could work for your own business. This could work for client projects or whatever. First one, really important one for the brand is the why. Take a look on Web Design from Scratch, and I've got an article on there about finding your why. This was really inspired by a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And what he says is, people don't buy from you. They don't buy your products and stuff. They buy why you do it, right? They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is what I was just explaining about the branding. And it's really, really important that if you're finding that you're trying to do something, you're trying to sell something, trying is actually a symptom very often that you're doing the wrong thing. It's either that you're trying to be something that you're not, or really at the same time, you're failing to express through what you do in business who you actually are. And your why matters a huge amount for that. Your why is, why do you do this? Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you make this product instead of that product? Right? So what I do is I explore and I question, right? Because my why is, how can we make things better? And specifically, how can we make things better for all the amazing, heroic small business owners and entrepreneurs out there around the world, right? That's my why. I hate it when I see people ripped off. That's my why, right? And when I realized that made the whole of business and marketing so much easier for me, because now I don't have to think about, should I do this, should I do that, right? The next natural expression, my output, comes so naturally once I realize that that's what I'm about. And the great thing is that I can then, because that also works with my personality and what I'm like. You see, I've got very easily distracted. I'm always fascinated with the next new idea that comes along, and I'm never satisfied. Now, that would be a positive disadvantage in certain areas of business even. But, you know, knowing that's what I stand for, knowing that I'm a bit of a rebel, really helps me to know what to sell, what to create, right, and who to talk to. But we need to get back to the presentation. So your why is really important. What do you stand for, or what do you stand against? You know, who are you the champion for? It can also be useful to think about having something to stand against, like, you know, there wouldn't be a David without a Goliath. All useful questions to ask. What is your current actual position? What are you known for today? Right? I actually went through a period recently, I don't mind telling you, that I was thinking about, oh, you know, is web design dead? Should we be, you know, really talking about what's after web design and stuff? And part of the reason I'm doing this right now is that I realized, no, my website is called Web Design from Scratch, right? I am known as, some of my closest colleagues in the marketing industry know me as a web designer, right? These are some of the closest people. I am known in the web design world. So to turn your back on that requires, it would mean starting from scratch in many ways. So it's about acknowledging the facts. What are you known for? What relationships do you have? What influence do you have? What domain authority do you have? You know, those kinds of things. And talking about authority, you know, in what are you an authority generally? You know, this is thinking about what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What's your origin story? This can be incredibly powerful. I'm not going to go into it on this presentation, but I think when you look back at why you've ended up where you are, that can be incredibly powerful. So what's the origin story of the brand? You know, why are you called what you're called? And this can also actually apply to products and things you actually sell. You know, does it have an origin story? Why did it come about? I've got one client that I worked with recently sells a device that's a cute little cap that you can put on a child's head, and it can hold either cold pads or warm pads from the ice box, or you can warm them up in water to help with things like earache or with bumps and bruises or toothache and stuff like that, because they've got these flap ears that come down. And the reason he came up with that idea is when, as a young father, he saw his child, you know, toddler, run along, bump his head, and he tried to pick him up, and then he wanted to kind of hold a bag of frozen peas or whatever it was from the freezer onto the child's head, but then he couldn't cuddle the child and soothe the child at the same time as trying to hold this thing onto his head, well, which the kid didn't like. So he thought, well, surely there's a better way. Now, when you tell stories like that, then what you find is, the power of story is incredibly powerful. What you find is that people get drawn into the story. They start to visualize the events unfolding in their mind, and that actually bypasses your natural built-in bullshit filter. So origin story, very important. And this is one of the questions that I absolutely love. Once you know what your why is, what you stand for, is to take some time and say, well, what would it look like if we maxed that, if we cranked it all the way up to 11? What would that look like? And that can then help you to reimagine elements about the brand and what you are and how you present yourself and what you stand for to the world, and to make you, somehow give you the courage to stand there and say, no, this is what I'm about. And I'm not going to mess around selling that anymore. I'm going to mess around selling this. So that's the brand. The next step is the product or service. Now, there's something really, really important distinction between products and services and proposition. Because you might think that you sell products, or you might think that you sell services. In the circuit, and in my view of marketing strategy, that isn't quite true. The product or the service is what you deliver. Okay, so if I order something from Amazon, the thing that arrives in the mail is the product. Okay, I ordered that book and it arrived in the mail. All right, that isn't actually what I bought. I bought a solution to my problem. Problem was I didn't have the book, and I trusted Amazon to deliver it. Okay, in the same way in services, right? I can do a branding analysis or a marketing analysis for someone's site. Okay, that's what I do. That's what I actually deliver to them. Now, I can sell that in many ways. I can call that many things. I can price an hour of me doing that at many different price points, depending on what problem it's solving for what kind of client. I can record it on video and sell the recording. I can do it live over the internet. I could go and visit a client and I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing my thing, right? And that's a service and it's the same service I'm doing each time, but you can package it differently and sell it differently. So we need to distinguish between the products and services that you actually deliver from the propositions, which is what people actually buy. So you don't sell products or services, and it's an important distinction, and understanding that distinction gives you a lot of flexibility. The product or service, this thing you actually do, this thing you actually deliver, relates closely to the brand, which is who you are. Right? If I am every small business owner's internet marketing champion, then that makes it really clear what kind of products or what kind of services that person would do. Your products and services should be a natural fit for the brand, for who you are. Now, products and services then also form the basis of your propositions, so that's what we'll be looking at next. So a few questions then for products and services. Firstly, does it suit the brand, right? If it doesn't, what you've got there is two of your blocks are out of alignment already on your circuit, right? If the brand is out of alignment with the product or services, or the service is out of alignment with the brand, one of them's got to change. You may or may not be familiar with this golden triangle idea. What that basically says is this thing that I do, right, does it fall inside three overlapping circles, right? The circles are, you love it, you're good at it, and there's a market for it, okay? Now, some things in that might turn out to be a hobby, right? If you love it, you're good at it, there's no market for it, that's a hobby, right? We should all be looking for things that we love, we're good at, and there's a market for. Now, I love playing the guitar, right? And there's a market for guitarists, but I'm not a brilliant guitarist, so that's not my job, right? So really useful, nice, easy way to delve into what you should actually be doing. Is the product or service unique? Now, what you'll find is that very often it isn't. The thing that you actually deliver often isn't unique. Think about how many different ways there are of buying the same, set pair of Nike running shoes, right? That's not a unique product. Doesn't mean that you can't build an amazing business selling Nike running shoes, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be unique. If you're an artist and you paint pictures, right, then you may be selling one-off pieces. Or if you're a service provider and you're selling your time as a consultant or as a healer, then each of those hours or days that you sell is distinct. You can't sell the same day twice. But in other cases, like if you're selling running shoes, you can sell lots of the same thing, or animal feed, lots of the same thing. That actually is one of those seemingly unimportant questions that can actually make a big difference to how you go to market. That's what we're looking at in the third video. Also, do product lines change frequently, right? It may be that you've got a big expensive machine that makes a particular thing, And that's really what your whole business does. If you lay driveways around people's houses, or you chop down trees with a chainsaw, what you do is unlikely to change frequently. However, if in the case of one of our social media marketing clients, they sell discount meat, right? And they buy whatever meat the suppliers happen to have. So from week to week, they might have ducks, or they might have venison, or they might have pork loins, or they might have smoked this and that, right? It changes week in, week out. And that means that they're actually really suitable for Facebook. That's one of the factors that makes them really suitable for Facebook's social marketing. Probably wouldn't make them suitable for AdWords pay-per-click. And it certainly wouldn't seem to apply to SEO. So these questions are really important, not just to understand what it is that makes up your strategy, but also for the next step. Another good question is scarcity. Is the thing that you're selling scarce? And that relates to uniqueness in many ways. If you're selling paintings, this is one of one, and it will never happen again. If you're selling days of consulting or healing, then again, that's you can only sell that once, so it's a scarce resource, and that can again influence the way that you market. So the third of our 5 elements is the proposition. Now, we distinguished products and services from propositions. The product and service is what you deliver. The proposition is what you sell. That's what people actually buy. So let's take this example. You're ordering a product online. That has a product element, right? Say I'm ordering that book from Amazon. Has a product element, and it also has a service element. So when you buy something from Amazon or iTunes, you may not be buying the book or the thing. You're buying, I need that, I need it fast, and I need to be able to trust that it's going to arrive in 2 days. Okay? So that's a kind of convenience. It's not just the thing itself. And this is incredibly important. You need to burn this into your eyelids. A proposition is a promise to solve a problem. And as you'll remember, we're in the third block of 5. The next one is problem. Okay? So the proposition is the bridge between what you deliver and the problem it solves. Okay? Proposition is a promise to solve a problem. Here's some key questions that you can ask. How does this proposition uniquely solve the problem? Okay? So that's about understanding what the problem is. If I will come into your business, and I will work with your team too, which means that by the end of the day, you will all these problems that I know you have and I know meaningful to you, they'll be solved, and I guarantee it. And if we haven't done that, you don't pay, right? That is an irresistible offer. That is saying that what I do and the way that I do it will uniquely solve your problem. If you need that problem solved, you buy this and it's solved. What is the promised outcome of that? So you're not just saying, this is what I'll do, right? This huge mistake in marketing, huge mistake, is to say, I do this, right? Guess what? No one's interested in what you do. They don't care who you are, what you do, and how you deliver it. What they're interested in is it going to solve my stupid problem? Right? What's in it for me? Is it going to solve my problem? And more than that, getting over my problem, how much better off am I going to be once I've bought this thing? Right? That's what motivates us. The promised outcome is what motivates us. So get clear about that. How easy is it to understand the proposition? Some things are very, very simple to understand. Some things can be communicated in a single graphic, right? A single ad. Other things may take a lot more. Other things might take a sequence of videos. What I'm giving you in this series of videos isn't that easy to understand, which is why it's taking me a series of videos to do it. I've got one client, so I will tell you this, I've got one client who is selling something that is so original in her target market. Right, she's selling a kind of methodology that can be used by coaches and therapists. and she's selling it to the US market. And it's practically unknown in the US market. So do you know how we are going to market with that? We're not doing a sequence of videos. We're not doing a series of emails. We're writing a book. We're actually writing a book that's going to go on Kindle and be able to download and stuff, because there's so much to understand. There's such a shift of thinking that's required in order to see how the thing that she's selling solves a problem. Another thing to ask, absolute fundamentals, basics, what are all the benefits that buying this proposition, saying yes to this proposition, will give the customer? And when I say all, I mean all. I mean, get paper, list these things down. List every single one down. And once you've done that and you see that they are powerful benefits, and by the way, you may also dig into them using the structure. So that means that what? Okay? So, you know, it gets me from A to B slightly quicker, which means that what are the ultimate benefits? Okay? Once you've done that, make sure they're all in your damn campaign. It's one of the most common mistakes that I see in marketing is people failing to communicate all the benefits of an offer, and also failing to resolve all of the possible objections to an offer. Yeah, can I use this? Will it work for me? What if I don't like it? What if it doesn't arrive? All those objections, deal with all of those as well. And another really, really basic one, what evidence do you have that this works, right? What hard evidence do you have? Case studies, reports, comparison tests, soft evidence, testimonials, you know, anecdotal evidence, stuff like that, newspaper reports. What evidence do you have that it works? So that's 3, that's our proposition. The promise to solve a problem. This is how this thing that I deliver solves your problem. Which brings us on to number 4, the problem. The problem, of course, is what you solve, right? If you're not solving anything, you're not going to sell anything. We are only motivated to part with money by problems or opportunities. Let's clarify that. We're only motivated to part with money by the promise to solve a problem or to capitalize on an opportunity. If we don't have any problem or opportunity in our mind, we're going to keep our money in our pockets. Obviously, the benefit of the solution must seem to outweigh its cost. That goes without saying. So here's some key questions that you can use for clarifying the problem. Right? Can you answer all of these? Is it a desperate problem? Right? How motivating is it? Is it an urgent problem? Is it something that people are desperate to solve now, not just at some point in the future? What about pain? Right? Sometimes we say, is there a bleeding neck problem here? Right? That means that I need to solve this, and I need to solve it right now, and I don't care what it takes. My house is on fire, solve it. Right? My kitchen is flooding, get me a plumber. I will take the first plumber that comes along. Right? That's a bleeding neck problem. That's urgent. Is it persistent or is it frequent? Is this a problem that's on my mind every day? What would it cost me to say no to the proposition? As in, if I don't do anything, if I fail to act on your proposition, what is the cost of that? And over what kind of period of time? Is it a sensitive or an embarrassing problem? This is really interesting. We're working, well, one of my pro group members is working with a client who they provide training in an area that is potentially sensitive or embarrassing or intimate. Okay, it solves a couple of problems. One of them is a medical condition, and the other one is to do with sexuality and sex life. Now, that then has an impact in how we market. So, for example, do you want to show people a series of videos, okay, that will talk them through the benefits of this solution? Or wouldn't a teleseminar be better? As in, you dial in by phone and you listen to it. And this is important. Think about the difference. If you've got a video and you've got somebody at home playing this video out through their speakers, like for us, our family computer is in our kitchen, right, and next to our dining table. If you're playing a video on there, anyone can walk in and out, right? But if you want to communicate something to somebody, a telephone, if it's sensitive, a telephone's a much more intimate environment. So you can say, well, dial into our teleseminar and listen to it. And that also helps free people up from distractions like email and other stuff that's going on as well. So there's just a few questions that you can ask around defining the problem. The final component, final essential element is the market. And quite simply, this is the group of people who share that problem. You need to know who you're selling to. It's very important. You need to know how to reach those people and whether it's possible to reach those people, and also what they're going to respond to. So let me give you a few really useful questions for helping you to clarify your market. How big is the market? Okay. Is it a general market? Is it a tiny niche market? How many people have this problem that we're talking about? If it's a general purpose thing that anyone can suffer from, then you may use banner ads, for example. It will seriously have an impact in where you choose to promote and how you choose to reach out to the people. But you wouldn't choose to put banner ads on a general purpose site for a really, really specific niche problem. Also, you have to know that there's enough people out there who are going to buy this thing that you're selling in order to justify the cost. Are there enough people who are going to pay your wages at the end of the day? Congregation is an idea that I find really useful. Do these people congregate anywhere? That's very often online, right? But it may also be offline, because we're talking about marketing, right? And we don't have to distinguish between. We don't have to say, oh no, outdoor billboard advertising is out, or speaking engagements at trade shows are out, or direct mail is out, or telephone marketing is out. No, those things can work amazingly well when they're the right channel to use. So, where do these people congregate? Do they have forums? Do they have groups? Do they have a trade association? Do they have a big jamboree that they all turn up to every year? Right? Now, if they don't congregate anywhere, particularly if it's a niche problem, then you're going to have trouble reaching those people, right? There's got to be some way in which you can reach them. What about profile? What do we know about these people? Yeah? Do we know their gender, their age, their location, their preferences, their loves, their hates, their turn-ons, their turn-offs? Do they have kids? Don't they have kids or pets? Or what do we know about their profile? Now, obviously, that can help you to decide how to reach them in many ways, not least of which can be Facebook ads, of course, because Facebook targets people through their profile, whereas the AdWords search network targets people via what keywords they're typing into a search engine. Two completely, fundamentally different ways to reach people. But it's always worth asking this question. What do we know about them, and what does that tell us? This is a great question. What must be true about them? Now, this is slightly different to the previous question, because what it means is, if they are going to end up buying from you, right, what must be true about them? Okay, that's quite different. So not just the people who've got the problem, but the ones who end up buying, what must be true about them? So, for example, if you're selling a high ticket price solution, then you know that the person who ends up buying can afford that amount of money. They can get their hands on that amount of money, right? What do you know about their kind of awareness of the problem? Are they looking for something right now? Are they ready to buy? What is it? Awareness level, very important. I'm hoping you've read Convert. where I introduced this concept called the awareness ladder. And that really says that everyone is somewhere on this continuum from don't have a problem or they're not conscious about it, to they're aware of the problem but they aren't aware that solutions exist. They're aware that solutions exist but they haven't got a preferred solution. Then they are aware that solutions exist, don't have a preferred solution, and are aware of your solution. Finally, almost finally, they're convinced of the benefits of your solution. And then finally they're ready to buy, and they click go, and they're now in a way part of your tribe. They're one of your followers. Incredibly important to identify where people are on that awareness ladder. For example, if they're at step 0, which is, I may have the problem, but it's not a conscious problem, right? It's unexpressed, it's unconscious. You cannot use Google AdWords pay-per-click to target those people. Because if you pay-per-click works when I type in the thing that I want into Google. And if I'm not typing in those words because I'm not thinking about it, because it's not a conscious problem, then I'm not going to see your ad. Okay? So depending on where people are on that progression of awareness can make a big difference to how you think about marketing to them. And another one, what kind of level of shift of thinking must be required for these people in order for them to be ready to buy? How far do we need to take them along? How long do you think it's likely that you'll need to communicate to them? From, their first meeting with you to them becoming ready to buy. You might express this as what's going to be the sales life cycle, the length of the sales life cycle. And that also relates to what we were talking about before. So for the case study that I gave you before, when we're actually writing a book, we are working on a kind of life cycle of many weeks or months. Because the outcome from when people read the book, and we've asked ourselves that question, what must be true about the people who end up buying? Okay? And we're writing the book for those people. We're not writing the book for the people who have the problem that we're talking about with the results they're getting from psychotherapy as a practitioner. We're not talking about that whole group, because we don't need that whole group. We're talking about, and we're writing the book for the people who are open to something new. They've got something that they're dissatisfied about with their current practice. They're open to something new. They're free thinkers. Yeah? So that's how we're writing the book. And that is going to inform what we say at the end of the book. Because what we want people to do when they get to the end of the book is to think, I'm going to go on that 2.5-day taster course. I'm going to take myself to California because I want to know more about this. They are the only people who will ever end up progressing past that taster course and signing up for the full training. You see how it works? So, important question, what shift of thinking will be required for them to be ready to buy? Now, I want to give you just one case study. I've got so many different ones that I could tell you about. I want to tell you about one client, and the proposition that we were going to market with was Tai Chi for beginners, right? My client, Bill Betts, fantastic guy. He's been teaching Tai Chi and Qigong for 15 years, okay? And he got into it when he was working in an IT role and was really suffering his kind of physical and nervous self. We're almost at the point of breakdown. He discovered a guy, a Tai Chi master, who agreed to teach him these arts, right? He started learning this thing, and within weeks, his symptoms have gone. His backache, his chronic, really chronic carpal tunnel syndrome, and acid reflux and more. He'd healed himself from those things, right? So at that point, he decided to start teaching the stuff that had changed his life, really changed his life. He decided to start teaching that to others. And he's been doing that now for 15 years. So we got talking. I did some keyword research, right? This is before the circuit. Okay, I have to tell you, before the circuit. I did some keyword research. Thought I saw some low-hanging fruit. I thought, wow, the site that's ranking #1 for Tai Chi for beginners, we can beat that. Okay? So there's great traffic there for Tai Chi for beginners. So we decided that we would just plow on, and in the first month of working together, we were going to address that market. Now, here's what I want to do. We're taking the concept Tai Chi for beginners, right? That's like the proposition. Let's just run it through the circuit, okay? Who is it? Well, it's Bill, right? Bill's a great guy, and that's his story, right? Remember, origin story, very important. Stories bypass your bullshit filter. We work in the realm of stories. We love stories, okay? So that's Bill, perfectly well qualified. What's the product or service? Well, Bill teaches Tai Chi and Bill teaches Qigong, and they're very related. Okay, so fair enough. And he's got online subscriptions. You can subscribe to his classes. You can get access to his archive of all these lessons that he's taught and meditations and stuff like that. Okay, that's what you get delivered. What's the proposition? Okay, that's different to what gets delivered. The proposition is Tai Chi for beginners. You want to learn Tai Chi and you're a beginner, I will teach you. Okay? You with me so far? Now, here's where, now I'm using the circuit, right? Here's where things start to fall apart. What's the problem? Well, the problem is, I want to learn Tai Chi, and that's kind of it, right? I want to learn Tai Chi, and I don't know where to start. Now, wanting to learn Tai Chi, yes, it's a problem, right? There's something I want, and I don't have it. However, there's an awful lot of competition to solve that problem. If you go onto YouTube and you type in Tai Chi for beginners, it will give you thousands of videos that you can watch for free. Many community halls and church halls all over the world will offer Tai Chi classes that you can just rock up to any day of the week. It's not hard to find a solution to Tai Chi for beginners. So what does that tell us? Think about our circuit, right? Block #1 is Bill. Yeah, great. Block #2 delivers Tai Chi training, right? People love it, it's great. That's fine. And it's in line with who Bill is. Block #3, the proposition. I will teach you Tai Chi as a beginner. Yeah, kind of. Maybe it's slightly smaller, slightly weaker block. Block 4 is minuscule. There's almost no problem. The problem doesn't have urgency. It doesn't have scarcity. It isn't really persistent. Somebody might think, oh, I fancy learning Tai Chi one day, and then the next day they've forgotten about it. And then that weekend they may be off and signing up for a yoga class. Right? There's no edge to this problem. What about the market? What do we know about the market? Do they congregate anywhere? Right? Is there a Facebook group for people who are thinking about maybe learning Tai Chi? No. Is there a forum for people who are thinking about maybe learning Tai Chi? No. Right? This problem does not relate to a group that we can isolate and target and speak to and reach out to directly. So that gives us a really weak proposition overall. Now we then went ahead and we made a landing page and we had a sign-up process and some free videos that you could get. Experience the benefits of Tai Chi for yourself. This is the proposition, right? With my 100% free Tai Chi for Beginners course. So the idea was we give people a free taster. They would then experience Bill and the way that he teaches and all that kind of stuff. And some people signed up, but I have to tell you, we had to put huge effort into it, right? Bill sent it out to everyone he already knew, or all his existing students. I sent it out to everyone on my mailing list, and I tried to promote it for a few weeks on Facebook organically. Got very little traction, right? Search engines weren't interested because of the way that the page is. It's a squeeze page. That's very difficult to rank. And organically in search, in social, very little traction. Now, remember that I said that practically any element of the circuit can be changed. And that even goes to an extent for you and your brand, right? You can dig deeper to find out who you are and everything like that. Bill didn't need to do that, right? Because Bill's Bill. So here's what we changed. We went back to the beginning. We went back to Bill's story. We went back to the origin story, right? And what he stands for and what he really loves and why, right? Bill's why. The very first thing in the very first element that we talked about, the why. We went back to the beginning. And why does Bill teach this stuff? Well, Bill teaches this stuff because he was suffering from a range of physiological and nervous complaints that he was then able to heal without medical intervention, without surgery, without drugs. Now, when I say that I feel that in my chest, you know, that's powerful stuff. Heal this without those side effects. So we got chatting and Bill said, oh, as it happens, I've commissioned 20 articles that are on his motionhealth.tv site, all about the medical, proven scientific and medical research into the health benefits of Tai Chi for 20 different complaints, ranging from insomnia to rheumatoid arthritis to acid reflux and whatever you may have. He knew that Tai Chi actually works for a range of specific problems and complaints. But because we hadn't had the circuit tool, I hadn't developed it yet, right? We didn't know. So we just thought, oh, there's a nice shiny thing. Tai Chi for beginners, let's go for that. Now, check this out. So what we decided to do was, we decided to launch a rolling program of short free courses in how to heal your insomnia, arthritis, whatever it may be. So let's run this through the circuit. Number one, the who, right? It's the same, but slightly different. Product or service that he's delivering is the same, right? Bill teaches people how to heal their stuff now. That's what he does in his classes, right? But here's the difference. The proposition is different. It's not Tai Chi for beginners. It's heal your complaint, your problem. This thing that bothers you. So how much of a problem is it? Well, the problem is insomnia, right? It affects you. It keeps you awake at night. Fibromyalgia. Things that actually cause severe discomfort and pain. Things that affect how you relate to your family, things that affect how you perform at work. We're talking about serious stuff now. This isn't, I fancy learning Tai Chi. This is, I don't know if I can carry on with this. How can I live a normal life? That's the problem we're talking about. So, you know, by actually segmenting, but going deeper, we realize that there are some specific problems that have pain, that have, real pain, and that have urgency, and they're desperate problems, and they're persistent, and they're frequent, right? Migraines, headaches, stuff that will get people to take action immediately. So number 5, the market, the sufferers, and here's where it gets really interesting. For the Tai Chi, beginning Tai Chi market, they were in the distance, they were in the clouds. We couldn't see them, it was all foggy, right? We didn't know how far away they were, how we could reach them. We didn't, just didn't have the information. You go on Facebook and type in groups named insomnia or groups named arthritis. Some of these things have 20, 100 groups, right? And you can speak to those groups. You can join those groups. You can have a relationship with people who are there because they all have that same problem. So we then published, basically redid the same kind of thing. This is a lead pages page. I've, put this up in minutes, really. Are you sick and tired of not sleeping? Right? Now, how different is that to Tai Chi for beginners, right? Are you sick and tired of not sleeping? In these free videos, I'll show you how you can achieve regular, easy sleep naturally. Okay? So remember, this is Bill doing what Bill does. He uses Tai Chi, Qigong, to help people to have a balanced and peaceful life, right? and also to be healthy, to keep their minds and bodies healthy without drugs and medication and surgery. Okay? So you can feel, just instantly feel, how much more attractive this is as a proposition than this. Right? Both pages look great, but the difference is the strength of that appeal. And that strength comes from our circuit. So you can see now how simply laying out those building blocks, those 5 essential elements in this way, can clearly show you what may be missing, what's out of alignment, and where you need to focus your attention. And you should do all that before you go to market. If we had done a circuit analysis before going to market with Tai Chi for Beginners, we would have saved a month of time and thousands of dollars in cash. That's what it means. So I've given you the fundamentals of the circuit today. The actual method that I use, I've got a series of over 100 questions that I will use. But when I work with a client, this will take between either 1 hour for a very quick project, with relatively low budget, up to half a day, or more than half a day in some cases, that we will spend exploring these things. Why? Because it's so damn important. We can publish a website in hours now, right? Stuff that used to take weeks, literally weeks, we can do in hours. So that just gives you an insight into what's changed, what this shift means, and how you're going to compete as well. So please take the circuit. That is my gift to you in this video. I want you to apply it to your own business and also any client projects that you work on. And instead of investing hours and hours on site design and production, which are now commodities, right? Get this into your head. Site design and production are now commodities. You can buy it. Somebody's already done it. You can buy it. Anyone can buy it. So we don't differentiate on site design and production now. Instead, we need to invest that time and effort in our strategy. And I promise you, when you do that, it will transform the results that you're getting. Doing the circuit exercise will also give you the fundamental concepts and content that you need for the next step, which is designing your marketing campaign. And that's what we're going to look at in a lot more detail in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.